Hello, and thanks for joining us on the podcast that discusses all things gaming. Coming to you from the home of Gen Con and the gaming capital of the world, this is The Established Facts. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 109 of The Established Facts. We are continuing with our Myers-Briggs personality examination, if you will. We are going to be discussing the Idealists today and the Kiersey temperaments, and that would be the intuitive feelers of the group. So we have a few of them, but let's go ahead and go around the table and introduce who is here with us, starting to my left.
I'm Bonnie, Big Don's sexy wife.
I'm Kari. I don't have a title. Woo!
She's Kari. Woo.
I'm Avital.
This is Lance.
This is Alan.
This is Josh.
This is Dr. Deb.
And I, of course, am your host, Big Don. And on episode 107 and 108, just to kind of catch everybody up, because it's been a few weeks, we started discussing the Myers-Briggs personality inventory, whatever the MBTI stands for. I don't know.
Type indicator.
Doesn't matter. I mean, ENFP details don't matter. So
details matter.
So
right.
details matter.
This is going to be probably my favorite episode of all time. Just so you know.
It's all about you.
Because we get to talk about me.
Hey.
So we started talking about the Myers-Briggs personalities and how there are 16 of them. We will have links and show notes for if you are interested in finding out what yours is and how that may apply to not only your gaming life, but also just your general attitude towards things and other people. They're a lot, in my opinion, they're a lot of fun to play with, especially when you have a group of people that know what theirs are and how they interact with one another, things like that.
And are obsessed as us.
That's right, and are obsessed as some of the people on this show
Yes.
can be with them.
Yes.
Which is fun. Mm-hmm. It is fun.
Obsession happens.
That's right.
Myers-Briggs Anonymous. I'm going to start a group.
We're not really that anonymous. I mean, this is kind of
Right.
anonymous.
Yeah, I guess we're not anonymous
Gave our names
anymore.
up.
Our names already.
What's really funny is it wasn't until after my wife Bonnie and I had gotten into kind of looking at these personalities, we started talking to people, that we realized how many people knew a lot more about them than they were kind of letting on. And then how we kind of started to get a little bit more fanatical about them. And then how we started turning people towards them as kind of resources for relationship building and communications and things like that. Because they're just kind of fun to see what your friends and spouses' personalities are and kind of how they work with one another or don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but also they may not, but all of the personalities can work together.
Oh, yeah,
if they understand each other.
Well, and we were having a discussion before our last episode, or before episode 107, about how extroverts tend to be kind of the collectors of people, and we are no exception. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, with family and friends combined, we have to stretch a little bit, but we have at least one of every personality type kind of in our friends circle.
Between friends and family, I think
Right.
that's true.
So
We might be missing one. We will let you know which one we're shopping for
Yeah.
at the end of the Myers-Briggs.
we will be taking applications
Yes.
starting in December.
Yes, you can
and
submit it.
if you would like, we can definitely have you apply for that audition for that position. So.
I promise you, we're not a cult.
Yeah, we don't have Kool-Aid.
Yeah, we do. You're
or
drinking
cool
I was
it.
gonna say, I
sneakers.
just
No,
made
that's
some.
Coke.
Oh.
Oh.
We love you. Don't sue us. So,
It's soda pop.
it's soda pop. Yeah. No, it's Indiana. Everything is Coke. So.
Yeah.
All right. So, for our versus topic for episode 109, we are going to do the judging versus perceiving. So how we'll do our versus topic is we'll go around the table, and each one of us will identify which one of those we are, whether we are a judger or a perceiver or Lance. and then kind of break down what those mean to us. But just to kind of give you a quick definition, a definition of what the perceiving versus judging qualities are. Perceivers preference. They have a preference for open-mindedness, and they have a very casual approach to life, whereas judgers prefer closure, focus, and clear objectives. So the way I like to put it is perceivers are kind of in that gray scale. They can see opportunities in a lot of different ways. Judgers are in that more black and white scale, where it's usually one way or the other. So we'll go around the opposite way of our introduction, and we'll start with Dr. Deb on J versus P.
J.
J.
P. Lance.
Thank you, Lance.
P.
J.
P.
And I am also a perceiver, P. So we're got kind of a mixed table, minus Lance. Thank you, Lance.
You said
You're the
N
melting pot.
versus P or
That's right.
Lance.
Well, yes, that's right.
So I chose me.
So Lance is
Yeah,
a...
you don't get an acronym anymore.
right.
You're just Lance.
You're
Yes.
just Lance.
There we go. Then
Lance.
LANCE. That's what I am.
Two letters.
Lance falls pretty much right in between the two. For most Myers-Briggs tests, they would consider it to be an X, but Lance, being who he is, considers it to be a T, the trainer
Yes.
personality trait. There we go.
Indicator.
That's what it is. Indicator, yeah, that thing. So we've got 1, 2, 3 J's, 4 P's, and a Lance. Lance!
Yes.
You got picked.
What do you see as kind of being right there in between? What do you see as strengths of both?
Okay. Situationally, of course. I think everyone can skew one way or another. I just happen to skew in the middle for almost everything. It was because I was such a perceiver before my military experience and such a judger afterwards, because now I feel in many situations that this is the way it should be, except for me. So I can get around the rules because I know how to break them.
Okay.
Interesting.
What are some of the weaknesses between the two, in your opinion?
The weaknesses between judgers and perceivers?
Yeah.
I think sometimes judgers get too bottlenecked by the rules,
Okay.
and people who are perceivers sometimes forget that there are rules.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see that. So, kind of going with where Lance is going on the J scale, Kari.
I'm the strongest judger at the table.
You are, and that's important to me because I kind of, I want to see what the objective opinion of someone who kind of falls right in between versus the extreme, which would be more kind of your angle on being a judger. So, what do you feel are some of the strengths and weaknesses of being a judger?
Well, I can't create from nothing. I have
Okay.
to have the steps to follow.
Right.
You need some sort of schematic.
I am not very good with going with the flow. I need to know what's going on,
Okay.
and if I don't, I'm like, I don't like this. Yeah.
What do you see as some of your strengths as a J?
I'm normally on time.
That's enough right there.
Extremely true, too.
Normally on time. I know that one thing that I really appreciate about judgers is just their straightforwardness. Being able to just call it how it is, not necessarily without empathy, because that's more of a T versus F thing, but just being able to say, no, this is how it is because of this.
Yeah, they
And
can
that's-
look at a situation clearly
Right.
and make a decision, and they're not clouded by. Sorry, I didn't mean to take over.
It's okay. I'm used to it.
Well, that's true.
Okay. You're just not following the rules,
She's also
Pete.
the strongest perceiver at the table.
I was
so-
gonna say, yeah,
Did she
What
just
is
whip
your
out her
P?
I'm
P?
90% P.
Okay.
It's actually my strongest, like, of all of the ones. Like, I'm more P than anything else in
Don's
my
okay with it,
personality.
though.
I'm really trying to stray away from it. I'm really trying to stray away from that.
But I guess what I'm saying is that, like, sometimes like, I love being flexible. I love being able to go with the flow. I can be very creative as far as, like, I can find inspiration within myself. In fact, because of that, I find it difficult to follow plans, follow rules, follow directions, as far as, even just as simple as Kari and I both crochet. We're best friends. We have this in common. You'd think we'd be able to do it together and enjoy it together, and yet...
No, I need a pattern.
Like, she needs a pattern.
I won't do it.
I can't follow a pattern. I get lost. I'm like, what are they talking about? I'm just going to do it this way. I'll just follow the picture. So... Yeah, as far as strength, I think the strengths and weaknesses are obvious when you see what the strengths of the J is. That is the weakness of the P.
Joshy, as a J, and as a gamer, how does being a J translate into your life as a gamer?
So, I very often will play a character that I think we all have acknowledged that a lot of the characters we play are some sort of exaggerated element of ourselves. But though that character may be an exaggerated element, you also have less exaggerated things that just always show up. I'm very often the character who is, okay, we made a plan, let's follow the plan. Right. I'm very much all right, I'm going to do this, whether you like it or not, type. And that's just, that's the judging element. I know that in just being Josh, but let alone characters, it takes a lot of convincing to get me to change my mind. Once as a character I've changed my mind, and in real life it does. There are certain situations as Josh that it's not as hard on. It's like, okay, that makes sense, let's just do it. But as a character, I often get stuck in those situations. I've had mages who are, I was hard pressed in the game we played with you, the Paragons game, that we were taught for so long that as characters that the Divine School was the reason that such and such happened in the Arcane School. But I, as a character, and having been a GM in the game prior to that, I'm going to go the route of I know what happened, even if no one else does.
Right.
So, and that's probably from a gaming perspective what often and video games, same way. I want to run the railroad because I want to run the story.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do, because if I don't, I won't finish it. If I get stuck off lines, if I get off the rails at any point, I will not finish the game.
Yeah.
So,
Lance,
sticking with the role playing side of this, I came up with how a J versus a T would cast a spell. Okay. So the judger would say, "What is this spell? How long does it take to cast it? What are the components? What is its range? What is its duration?"
Right.
Meanwhile, the P goes, "Ooh, I can cast Fireball." Boom.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, very much
True.
so. Well, and that's we talked about this a little bit on the last episode, I think. That concept of like a sorcerer versus a wizard, where if you're looking at Pathfinder rules, a sorcerer gets eschew materials at first level as a feature, which means they don't have to carry spell components, which means they're literally gunslinging spell throwers. So they're always prepared for whatever happens, but 9 times out of 10 they can't change what has happened because they have such a limit of spells, whereas a wizard has spell components and has a book, and they have to get up in the morning and they have to prepare those spells, and there's a procedural thing that they have to do in order to make sure that they can be the best caster that they are.
But I think most players play wizards as sorcerers. I agree. You don't see them reaching into their bag of whatever and getting all that. They're just, I cast this, just like a sorcerer says I cast
absolutely.
that.
Well, and I think that when you look at pop culture, when you look at a lot of movies and things like that, what people call wizards, honestly, Journey Quest so far, in my opinion, as silly as that show is, has got probably one of the better interpretations of what a wizard looks like, because that's exactly what their wizard does, is he'll reach in his book and he'll open this book and he'll try and cast this spell, and he doesn't always get it right, because that's just what happens,
that's when you're Arcane Kelley.
I don't know. I think Harry Potter does a good job with that too.
Because
they have to have all the ingredients and stuff, and even when they're learning with the wand, they don't always get the spell right.
The only reason I would argue the point that they would in comparison to like and this is specifically comparison to like a Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons, sorcerer versus wizard. In comparison to those, they are literally memorizing spells.
Yeah.
They don't have to look in a spell book. Now, not to say that Dumbledore doesn't have a book of spells that he can look over and he can memorize and he can practice, especially like when it gets to alchemy and things like that. They've got books for alchemy and for spells and things like that. That is true. But when Harry's on the battlefield doing a wizard's duel, he's not looking in a spell book. He's literally playing by reflexes. He's trained himself to cast these specific spells over and over and over again, and that is. He's
also not going to be like, I'm just going to try this thing.
Oh no,
no,
right, exactly. He's not one. I think the only time you ever see him do that in the movies. Unfortunately, I have not read the books, but in the movies, the only time you ever really see him do something like that, where it's like, I'm going to use a spell that has never been practiced, is when he meets Draco Malfoy in the bathroom.
Half-Blood Prince.
Yeah. And he uses that spell.
Signum Sempra.
Yeah. And so, thank you.
There you go.
Thank you from the INFP over there at the end of the table. But that is a perfect example of what can happen when an immature wizard decides to cast spells that they don't know anything about.
Yeah, I will admit, we had this conversation off mic.
Sorry, I had to go Harry Potter direction.
No, that's totally fine. That's totally fine.
We had this conversation on mic, and I'm sure it'll come up. Have we already done N versus S?
N versus S. We did that on the last one during
well,
J's.
We'll
talk about S's more.
I'm going to add a little bit more to that, though, because the statement you made about you never see a wizard pull out his book and read from the book and blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of that has to do with our game masters don't require it because we're all intuitives and we're like, the detail doesn't matter.
Well, and that's like
you're
the Arrows
a wizard.
Thing. The Arrows thing that we talked about. Like being an intuitive, I'm assuming as an archer, you have to have arrows in order to shoot your bow. So I'm in my head logging that you are responsible for your ammunition, so I'm not going to worry about you having to count it.
But having played with many groups, not just this group,
I understand.
It's that way almost across the board.
Right, and it's that's what a lot of our game masters, all three of the main game masters in this group, myself, Don, and Derek, are all intuitives. Yeah, we don't care.
It seems so strange to me, though. The very first time I played a game where I was playing an archer and I had it, I knew I had 30 arch. Right. I knew I had 30 arrows, and I knew that I shot 3, so I had 27 left. And I had it all, and they were just like, we don't care about that. And I was like,
well, and when I started,
what if I run out?
Right, exactly.
How do you know that my arrow was actually the arrow I said?
Oh, I'm sorry. we trust you.
Right. When I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I had a missile weapon, I did the same thing. But it was out of just player experience, maybe slight frustration, not for anyone else besides just the details, that I was just like, you know what, when I'm running a game, I'm not going to worry about how many arrows. Now, if you have like a magic arrow or something like that, sure, I can understand, I have an arrow of venom. I have one arrow of venom that I'm going to use, sure. But if it's just a mundane stick with an arrow and I'm not worried about that, because that, it doesn't matter to me.
Can I plug a company right now?
Sure.
Game Mastery. Have you seen their cards?
Yes.
Their item cards?
You mean Paizo, since they bought them?
Oh, they bought them now? Okay. So Paizo's Game Mastery cards,
I've never
whatever.
heard of Paizo.
They have weapon cards where you actually give the player, like, this is what you've just found. And
right.
It's either a sword or a helmet or whatever. And you can, as a DM, say you found an arrow and flesh out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You found 6 arrows. And then if they use one, they hand it in.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that idea as a judger.
Yeah, yeah.
As a perceiver, I'm like, come on.
Right, exactly.
Keeping track of ammunition? What are you talking about?
Exactly.
So,
as a perceiver, I create weapons that just don't run out of ammunition.
Right.
Now, that being said, if any of you involved in organized play, they track it to the T.
Right.
Don't.
Well, and that's definitely
near and dear to my SJ heart.
That's the arena in which someone who is a perceiver and a gamer needs to make sure that you are accountable for the rules in front of you. Avital, as a gamer, as a perceiver, and as someone who enjoys the storytelling aspect of the game, what are some difficulties that you have in being a perceiver and in playing in a role-play game setting, let's say?
Well, I think that my perceiving trait is not as strong as some. Just like my introvert and extrovert, I'm a lot closer to the middle than some people. Also on the perceiving, because while I am very just kind of like, I'm very flexible and open to whatever's going on, just like perceiving traits are. But I don't necessarily want to be like the instigator. Okay. Like I want to react to what is happening around me. Like, in role playing, like when I'm like writing, obviously, like I'm creating.
You're carrying the action.
But I have time to think about it, and in the middle of role play, I just don't really want to have to.
See, I'm a judger, and I have a hard time making the decision in the game too.
I have a difficult time making decisions too. A lot of times, I don't want to get things wrong, which isn't necessarily. I don't know if that's necessarily perceiving or judging or anything. That's just I don't want to get things wrong. But
well, I think that is a judgmental aspect of being a human being. It doesn't have anything, in my opinion, doesn't have anything to do with your personality per se.
It doesn't fit in the box? I don't.
Right.
That's where Deb was supposed to
because
agree.
then you're just dealing with your own personal confidence.
Right.
At that point, it's not really even a matter of whether you're getting the answer wrong or it's more a matter of whether you feel like you're getting the answer wrong or right versus being spontaneous and just going with it.
Yeah, like I can be very spontaneous, adaptable as perceivers are, but even in role play, like I don't want to make a mistake. Like I don't want to be the reason that even another character, not a real person in the real world, but I don't want to be the reason that another character gets hurt.
Oh, that's a whole other role playing lesson you need to learn. That
right?
No, it probably has to do with her her feeling.
I understand. But the role playing lesson meaning that you play your character and understand that the whatever your character does, even if it does harm, remember it's just another character.
Right.
No,
and it could be for the betterment of the story.
Right. I
know.
I know where you're going. I totally know where you're going.
I don't want to harm anyone, even if it's a character.
But here's the thing, and this is from a GM/storyteller perspective. Sometimes, and this is a lesson that was hard for me to learn until I saw what happened after the effects of a decision that I had made as a player had on the rest of the party. Sometimes, looking at a situation and making the hard decision makes the story even better. And I'll use the example of when Mike Massey and I played in a long-time role-playing game that we played for several years. We went to our GM, and we were like, hey, we know that this portion of the campaign is coming to an end. We want to do something big. And she said, okay, what are you thinking? And we immediately thought, we want to be the ones who instigated the original destruction of the main character in this game's village when the game started. We want to be the bad guys. We had been good guys for 3.5 years. And we had built relationships with the players and the characters in the game. Mm-hmm. And then we said, we want to turn this game on its head. And I think that had we been put in a position to make a decision to be a bad guy and not done it, the game still would have progressed. It would have gone a direction that would have probably been entertaining. But the impact of what had just happened in the game when it was finally revealed, you can ask Josh, it was groundbreaking for the rest of us. And then what was cool was after that portion of the game was resolved, with the continuation of those characters, as players and characters, we had to respond to what we had, the knowledge that we now had about who we were versus who everybody else was. And then it was like, do we really trust these guys? We've been traveling for 3 years now. Are they really the guys that they say they are? Or is this just another big ploy to get us into just the perfect spot to see our destruction happen?
Oh, false sense of hope.
I'm just saying, it's really, cool stuff. But that being said, so that kind of gets us into a little bit of our...
I didn't hear anything from Alan on that
I
topic.
haven't said much.
That's all right.
I did have a question for you, Alan. You come from... you and I come from a very similar gaming background in that you and I started playing card games together, Magic the Gathering, Young Jedi, things like that, at a very early age. And you have not really ventured into the arena of roleplay.
No, that's why I haven't really commented much, because I'm like, I really can't provide too much information here.
But you have recently, within the last few years, really opened yourself up to a lot of different board games and things like that. And there's still a role-playing aspect of, for example, Zombicide, things like that, where you are taking on the role of a character that has special qualities compared to everybody else. Right. You are a unique character in that moment, in that board game. But I want to specifically talk to the collectible card game, Alan, with being a perceiver, because there is an aspect of playing competitive cards that I feel like a perceiver has a huge advantage over someone who is a judger.
Well, I
want to see what, like, kind of where you go with that.
Okay. I feel like I toe the line because I'm a stickler for the rules. Hands down. Every single rule has to be precise. Now, that being said, if someone enforces rules on me, then I'm like, what do you mean? I already know all the rules. I'm the stickler of the rules. What are you telling me? There's this rule I haven't heard of yet.
Oh gosh, you sound like Bonnie.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to go investigate this said rule that you said exists, and then I'm going to find a way to exploit it. Now, as a perceiver, you look at that and you go, okay, the rules are just a playground.
Yep.
Right? I mean, yes, they are the reason why we're playing the game and how we play the game. But at the end of the day, the more I can dance that line, the better my opportunities will be, or better my chances of winning.
Right.
So when playing collectible card games, you're constantly, everything changes on the fly, and you still have a very solid foundation you have to play by, but you have to bend it as much as possible. And when, like you said, I play board games now, and I was just thinking, listen to everyone else, just like Zombicide. When I pick a character that I don't know, it's necessary. I want to feel needed when I'm out there playing.
Right.
Even if it means I'm going to marginalize myself,
right.
Put myself in a corner and do nothing but, hey guys, I'm going to do this.
I get a free search.
I'm just going to tank.
That's all I can do is I just get a free search. Right.
And you guys handle that. I'll make sure this is handled. I want to make sure I'm necessary, but I want to make sure I'm doing something really amazing in one central area.
Right.
I can't do anything except fly a helicopter. So you guys do it all, and then I'll be there at the end.
Right. Well, one thing that I really appreciate about you being a perceiver.
Says the perceiver.
I don't know where this is going.
No. One thing I really appreciate about you being a perceiver, and something that I have always thought was a lot of fun when you and I got together to build decks and things like that, is we have a tendency to find some rules that we like and really bend them pretty much as far as they can go without breaking. And I feel like one of the biggest aspects of card playing, and this is not necessarily present in every collectible card game, but definitely in competitive Magic the Gathering, is a sideboard.
Right.
And to me, that is literally your excuse to be a perceiver. What is going to happen when I sit down and play someone that I can adjust to? And one of the decks that you had recently built, I don't think you have anymore, but that you recently built that really threw me for a loop, and that got me really excited about doing something very similar, was you built a deck, and then literally your sideboard eliminated so many specific cards from your deck that it changed it to a completely different deck. If you're familiar with collectible card games, there's a concept called net decking, and essentially you look at what is the hottest competitive deck being played at that time and build a deck that's either the same or very similar to it. And it just so happened that you had basically like the top 2 decks that had probably 75% of the exact same cards, and then you just trade out that 25% for something completely different, and it changes the whole aspect and mechanics of that deck. And to me, I'm like, that is the epitome of a collectible card game perceiver. Like somebody who can say, okay, well, that's fine. You are totally used to me now playing this, so how do you adjust to a completely different deck?
Right.
I would say as a judger, I don't adjust well.
Right. Well, and that's really the biggest advantage you have in playing a collectible card game is being able to read so many, and this is very true with Magic the Gathering. So many Magic the Gathering players are easily able to transition into poker because it is the same mind game that you are playing with the person across the table from you. Heads up poker is very, very similar in the thinking and processing aspect as games like Magic the Gathering, because literally the idea is you're sitting there and you're reading your opponent. You're reading all of their body language, all of their emotional language, all of the things that they are doing, you are just collecting. And I think that for somebody who is, especially somebody who is an intuitive, you eat it up. Like, that's me. That's why I loved playing competitive Magic.
When I watch shoulders drop.
Right.
Head shake.
Right.
Or if they go to their sideboard after a loss.
Yep.
And they have this completely blank look on their face.
Well, I don't know what to do.
That's telling me they don't have a plan.
Exactly.
And then I feel like I have an advantage at that point.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I'm happy to venture away from that.
Right.
And, now, if you look at most of my collection of board games, which is completely strange for me now, instead of having 10,000 Magic cards, I have 40 or 50 board games.
Right.
You look at that, and most of those are cooperative.
Right.
Because I hated having 14-hour days sitting across from somebody just hoping they would just finally lose and go away so I could move on.
Right. I don't know. I totally...
Like, I want to know where you're from.
Get that.
I'm going to shake your hand. We're going to have a great conversation.
That's right.
But when the bell rings, hey, one of us has to keep going and one of us has to go home.
Right.
I think,
and when I play with friends, I'm like, I love you guys.
Yeah.
Let's do something together.
Right.
I think that the other big, in my opinion, and this is just an observation, and I could be totally off on this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm the host and I can say what I want. I think that I'll just yell in everybody else's mouth. We got enough condensers at this table that somebody will hear me. I personally feel like when it comes to the difference between a perceiver and a judger, you can see it, and you kind of touched on it, when they have lost. A perceiver, though, in my opinion, though we may look at a loss and go, well, that stunk. I lost. Not only did I lose, I got my rear end handed to me. You look at it and you kind of go, okay, well, what did I do wrong? What can I fix? How can I adjust my deck? Is there something that I misplayed on? Whereas I feel like sometimes a judger will linger on just the fact that they lost, and it may take a little bit longer time to recover. Not that it's impossible by any means. I mean, they probably have the same process of, okay, well, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? How can I fix it?
I think it depends on the other letters paired with that judger.
That could very well be.
As a feeling judger, I'd be like, oh, I lost.
Right. Yeah, thinker judger, I'd be breaking it down. I'd be going okay, what was the move that caused
that's a whole other
in
conversation, I think, because I'm a feeling judger as well, and most of the time, especially when it comes to games, I'm like, lost. Oh.
Joshy did it.
Press the mark button.
Right.
I did.
So,
there you go.
And then in my case, I'm like, let's just play again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because I feel like, and maybe episode 111 or whatever it is, or maybe even the one after that, where we kind of look at the whole picture of personalities and how they interact with each other and things like that. One thing about gaming that has been a somewhat recent development, probably in the last year, are all these games where it's literally like you versus the game. Mm-hmm. And there have been games coming out that were like that for a very long time now, but it seems like in the last year, maybe two, they're really popular. like these cooperative games in general are really popular because you get a chance to play against the game. But it's this aspect of, I'm going to sit down and this game has a 70% chance of beating me. So I'm going to play for that 30% chance. And then stopping and going, wow, I just got my butt kicked. Let's play again. You know, like
exactly, and that's where I was trying to ultimately say, right,
don't play again,
right, and it's just.
I don't know what the combination is, but this ENFJ, like, I got my butt kicked. We got to do that again.
Let's roll them again. Yeah.
I mean,
how many times do we play 5-year mission, guys?
Yeah, 5-year mission.
Oh my god,
5 times.
if we win or we lose, just the fact that like it's me and the people that I'm playing with against the game, because I personally hate playing against my friends.
Competitive games. See, I like competitive games, but
so much.
I like
because of where my head goes when I lose.
Yeah,
I don't like the way that I lose.
So, Avital, you are an INFP.
Yes.
I am an ENFP. Josh is an ENFJ. We don't have an INFJ on the show.
We don't.
We got Lance.
I don't know how we can handle that.
Lance covers all.
I don't know.
I'm probably
Someone
the closest.
Someone who's like me, who doesn't like people. I don't know how to handle that.
I can't handle you sometimes. I don't know how I'd handle it either.
Derek's significant other, he's an INFJ.
Oh, is he?
Oh, that's true.
I wish I'd have known that because they're home.
I know. I'm just saying. That's what he says.
So, the Kiersey temperament for the NF is called the Idealist. Take that with whatever grain of salt it comes with. Let's see. I've got... So...
Deb's got her explanation.
That's fine. I'll let you have it here in a second, Deb. Looking at me with your hands flying in the air. Okay. What does this say? So, the INFP is the most idealistic. Having strong personal values, seeking inner order and peace, creativity, non-directive, reserved with people. Yes. And ENFP is the most optimistic. Yes, I am.
Yes, he is.
People-oriented, creative, seeks harmony with others, life of the party, better at starting than finishing.
Hey, man.
See, Dawn, this is why I know for a fact that I am very much in the middle on the introvert-extrovert thing, because so much of what describes the ENFP applies to me.
Oh, I know.
I am a little more on the introverted side, but I can totally be on both sides of that introvert-extrovert spectrum.
An INFJ is the most reflective. I love how it says the most reflective, and then the first word that describes them is reflective. They're the mirror. Really? Reflective, introspective, quietly caring, creative, eloquent speaker, writer, and visionary. And the ENFJ is the most persuasive, charismatic, idealistic, ignores unpleasantness, sees the potential of others, and is compassionate.
Yes.
Debbie, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I find this interesting because this is the personality that is actually... I don't have either of the letters. I'm not intuitive and I am not a feeler.
You don't have any of the letters.
Well, but the other ones at least the NT, I had the thinking, or with the SP, I have the sensing. But with the NF, I don't have either one. So this is actually the farthest removed from the way my mind works.
Right.
So I find it amusing that I'm the one reading this because it's like out there. But... As a temperament, idealists are passionately concerned with personal growth and development. They strive to discover who they are and how they can become their best possible self. And always this is a quest for self-knowledge and self-improvement that drives their imaginations. They want to help others make this journey. They're naturally drawn to working with people, and they are often very gifted in inspiring others to grow as individuals and fulfill their potentials. So the common core characteristics for all of the idealists are they tend to be enthusiastic, trust their intuition, yearn for romance, seek their true self, prize meaningful relationships, and dream of attaining wisdom. Talk about the opening for some huge novel. Goodness. They pride themselves on being loving, kind-hearted, and authentic. They tend to be giving, trusting, spiritual, and they're focused on personal journeys and human potentials. They make intense mates, nurturing parents, and inspirational leaders. So some common, well, I shouldn't say common, famous idealists that you might know from history that kind of gives you this picture. Gandhi, Nelson Mandela,
Wow.
Oprah Winfrey, Princess Diana. Uh-oh. I'm going to find some more. There's a big, huge list.
Mother
look.
Teresa.
You don't have
Mother
to read
Teresa.
20 people.
No, actually, Mother Teresa is an SJ. She's a duty
really?
fulfiller.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Other ones are very just John Wooden, for instance, Charles Dickens, Charlotte Bronte. You tend to find a lot of writers that tended to be NFs.
Deb, think of a Disney character that is.
Oh, that's right. I have to pull that up.
We were just Ariel.
All of us reached for our phone.
I would think Ariel. I think was an NF.
Yeah.
I think that.
I have a list. I have 7 lists at home of different, I have a Doctor Who, and I have Game of Thrones, and Walking Dead, and Disney princesses, which Disney princesses are
But
what.
I didn't want the Google or the people have created this thing. I wanted her to think, because she is one of the most Disney of us.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the most NF? Ariel's
Debbie
good.
is the next
I
Disney
think-
princess.
I think Ariel is the most NF. I think Rapunzel. I think was an NF.
She's, I think they put Rapunzel as an ENFP.
ENFP. Yeah.
She's constantly seeking outside.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Of her. She can't handle the just being there with her mom.
They've got
Right.
Belle as
What
the
about
INFP.
Belle?
See, I'm
Oh,
not
that
sure
makes
Belle's
sense.
a feeler.
I can see
Maybe an X, because there's some aspect of thinking.
Belle in
She's a
in
thinker,
me,
but-
the INFP.
She's an
Yes.
idealist.
She's an idealist.
She is such an idealist, though.
Look at
It's
her-
true.
I mean, her dad was always. It wasn't just the fact that her dad was an inventor. It was the fact that whatever he invented was going to be the next big
Right, and
revolutionary
she was always
thing.
like that.
Didn't
Yeah,
matter whether it just
that's true.
chopped wood or blew up in his face. It
Right.
Right.
Was, yeah.
Well,
big thing.
so the last episode I did the Avengers chart that I was looking at. They've got Bruce Banner as the INFJ,
Sure.
Peggy Carter from the early Captain America and Agent Carter, whatever, is the INFP.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Sam Wilson or Falcon as the ENFP, and Loki.
So funny.
Yeah.
It's funny that. Okay, so long story short, when it comes to Falcon being an ENFP, when I was in elementary school, somebody had said something about the Avengers comic books, and I started kind of looking into them in the library and stuff. This was before Google, and I happened upon Falcon, and I just really dug his character. Like, he's just a really cool character, and so literally he is a portion of most of my email passwords. Like I just really have an affinity for his character.
And
It's
how
really
long
cool.
will you go before you change those?
They're already changed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then the ENFJ is Loki,
Of course it is.
which it's just give me the psychopath thing. So
He's not a psychopath.
whatever.
He likes to think outside the rules.
Right.
As an ENFJ, that was just kind of the part that kind of threw me off.
I'm not
It's
sure
the
if I see it
biggest-
as an ENFJ.
The biggest reason is the charisma. He's
Yeah.
persuasive. That's
Yeah,
exactly
he's
what Dom was
persuasive.
saying. Loki is the
persuasive.
most persuasive character in the Avengers universe.
He's persuasive. He is constant. Okay, even when he had a conflict with Odin, he still had an emotional spot in him for his mother and his father and his brother. So he's definitely an F.
I agree
And
he's a
the
feeler.
fact that he's a,
He can get lost in his own head. I agree with
Yes,
the intuition.
he's an
I agree
N.
he's an NF.
They
I'm
have-
not sure about the other letters.
This is great. They have such highly developed people skills that they find it easy to manipulate others when they want to.
I totally agree with that.
I guess that's. I
I
guess
totally agree
it's possible.
with
Yeah.
that.
I don't like the only
I
thing
think
I
the
don't like
problem
about it
with
is it
those
makes
kinda-
our personality look like a jerk.
I think the problem with those kind of charts is that they try to take like a genre or a movie or something and try to fit a character into every personality type.
Right.
When, to be honest, it's not really likely that
You probably have several
the princesses
INFPs.
would represent all 16 personalities.
Yeah, it's very. I never met an ISTJ princess.
Princesses, though.
I'm an ISTJ. I don't know
whatever.
one.
I mean, I've seen several of these charts where it's like, Doctor Who characters or these characters, and they have all of the personality types represented.
Yeah, no, it's unlikely.
But I mean, it's just unlikely to think
I don't know.
I mean, there's probably some duplicates.
Okay,
you
probably got a few ENFPs in Doctor Who. I mean, come on, the Inspirer running around.
Hey, one at a time, guys.
You have 13. You have 13 ENFPs in Doctor Who.
Yes, I'm sure you do. No, I'm sorry. The Last Doctor, he is not a P. That man is a J.
Look it up.
That man is a cranky Scott J.
No, it's funny because when I was looking at like the big 16 personalities for Doctor Who, it had it's got half of them are his companions, obviously.
Right. Yes.
Right. And then I was like, ENFP, where's it at? And then it has like 3 of the doctors on there, and I was like, sure, I could go with that.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So
intuitive feelers.
Yeah, intuitive feelers in gaming, I actually think is interesting that we have several intuitive feelers here. We actually don't have them all here. We actually know more intuitive feelers who are gamers that we actually don't have at this table. But it is so funny to me because as an ST, y'all confuse the daylights out of me some days, because especially when we're adventuring, you guys are the ones who are usually at the lead. If you could have pom-poms and a huge banner of, we're going this way, yay, woo, and that would be you guys. And then we get halfway there, and you guys decide, because you guys are feelers, that we're going to do this. And you're intuitive, so you did it all in your head. You didn't talk it out. And so somehow you made this jump that rather than saving the princess in the castle, we're going to go and we're going to fight the pirate that's on there to get his stuff, to steal his ship, to get over to the island, to get the stuff there. Once we get the stuff there, we're eventually going to save the princess.
Right, because who knows what's on that island? It could help us kill whatever's at the very end of the story.
I don't see what the problem is.
And this is my struggle with NFs. and having game masters, several of them, that are NFs and who are trying to lead the game with this can be a bit frustrating for an STJ, because all of a sudden you guys are just like, hey, plot twist, you guys should actually go over there and talk to the random guy in the corner, and you're like, well, I was going right because you told me to go right, and now all of a sudden the answer is left and underground, but the dwarf who is a girl but isn't a girl, and whatever else you guys decided to throw at us.
So using that example, you don't like the Legend of Zelda games because Link has to go all these way over here things to get this thing to be able to do the final thing.
Yeah, no. That was the reason why Legend of Zelda games were I didn't finish a lot of them because I would get so frustrated. Like, I have to do what now? Where's Mario? I know if I get from 1-1 to 8-4, I am saving the princess and we are done with this castle. Okay, let's just get done with the thing. So, you all have wonderful strengths. The problem is I miss them because they're so at odds with my personality sometimes.
Well, I think that one thing that is very synonymous with an NF is the style of creativity that they have.
Yes.
Because a lot of them are writers. Mm-hmm. Even the ENFJ, the ENFP, the INFP, very much so. With the creative, constantly coming up with stories, constantly looking for new character development. There's 15 different characters sitting in, an NF's head at any one time for roleplay. I beg to think that NFs are probably the closest to schizophrenic or multiple personality syndrome of any personality that's there.
That is totally believable.
So it's funny to me that you bring up some of those observations that as players they can be kind of frustrating because, especially if you have enough of them, they will totally jump on each other's bandwagon and go, yeah, that sounds awesome, let's do that thing.
Right, and then when they're all extroverts, okay, I might as well just pack up and go home.
That's true.
Because at this point, we are on an ENF bandwagon. We're going to do something inspirational, probably stupid, in there somewhere, loud, and we're going to go and save the day, but it's going to be in the most confusing way possible, and we probably are going to be crying and bursting into tears halfway into it because we've had some sort of, diplomacy check of a 78 to save the old guy.
That's right.
Now, the ISTJ is sitting back here going, I just want to do the thing. I just want to beat the dragon and go home to the inn. So, okay.
So what I am what I am gathering from kind of where you're coming from here, Deb, and what's really funny is you and I have literally the complete opposite personality types.
Literally, yes.
But what I'm gathering is you are definitely a role play gamer. Not necessarily to say that you want to win, but you definitely want to. You see the end goal and you want to achieve.
I want to complete some objective,
right?
Even if it's a little objective, just a little one.
For myself, an ENFP sees the end goal and goes, well, there's a lot of time between us and that. What else can we do on the way? Go ahead, Lance.
And I'm the kind of guy that I can say, we can go and do a whole lot of things. What's the end goal? I'm usually the guy that says, okay, we'll go where you want to go. I'm just going to make sure we don't leave anybody behind.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's also, yeah.
I think as GMs, NFs are a lot of fun to run games because they are...
And then you hide the dice.
That's right. Then you hide the dice. NFs tend to be ones that are constantly taking in what's going on at the table and responding to it and making sure everyone's having a good time. Because they are so feeler-centric, even if it's just slightly, that is a huge, in my opinion, as a GM, a huge advantage to being an NF is being able to kind of gain your bearings of where everyone is. There's a level of discerning intuition, being able to look at people's body language and listen to the way that they're talking and how they're creating with you and then responding to it.
That's interesting that Avital made the comment earlier about you would like to react as opposed to plan. I know it was more judging and perceiving. But intuitives a lot of time are... we're processing information all the time, as the information is coming through, and it seems like we react even though we're not really. I know Deb and I have had this discussion quite a few times. She's very much a long-term planner. I'm a short-term planner, and it's often because I'm thinking about what's going on right in front of me and what's around me. So if it's we need to do this thing, I've either already thought about or it's next in queue to think about. So it's easier to go and all right, we're going to handle this, and this quickly, as opposed to, well, what about our trip that's in 12 months? And I'm going, that's 12 months from now. What?
Mm-hmm. But if we plan it now, then we won't be stressed in 12 months. So let's plan it now. It's all planned.
You're also implying that we will be stressed.
Yeah.
Josh will be stressed because you're stressed. It doesn't have anything to do with him actually being stressed.
Yeah. It's truth. That's truth. So it's
also there's sensing versus intuition.
Yeah.
We live in the here and now as sensors, and you guys live in the what could be. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know what you've got going on in your head, and so it can be hard. Everything. Well, exactly.
Yes.
The world at large.
Everything.
I saw a funny meme a long time ago on Facebook that said something about as an NF, people think that they can say something bad about you and that you're going to respond if they make fun of you. But the fact of the matter is, as an NF, you've already thought of even worse things to say about you. That's just because you're just constantly thinking about. And I don't mean to say that I have to be depressed because I'm an N, but it's if someone were to say, "Hey Don, you're a pretty large fella," I'd be like, that doesn't bother me because first of all, I don't really care what you have to say, and and second of all, because I've thought of 15 or 20 other things that I'm doing wrong that I would like to not do wrong that you don't even know about.
No,
so whatever you have to say doesn't really affect me in that way.
He lets his ENFJ friend worry about what other people think.
Right.
Wait, what?
That's right.
That's that scene from the Steve Martin movie Roseanne where they're playing darts.
Yeah.
It's 20-something betters.
Yes. That is
So,
such a fun scene, too.
what frustrates an NF in a game? What drives you guys bananas? What's
Rules
hard?
lawyers.
Oh my god!
Gosh.
That was interesting. All the NFs all grown together.
Ouch, guys. That hurts. That hurts.
The rules lawyers go, I know.
Oh, dang it.
Well, it's funny that you brought that question up because Alan and I were just having a conversation the other day about rules in games and how Josh was going to kill him because he, talked about the defusing a bomb and exploding kittens, and we were playing it a little bit wrong. And he's like, man, I keep coming up with all these rules that we're doing wrong, and Josh is going to kill me. And I was like, no. I said, Josh is just going to look at it and go, oh, well, that sucks. We've been playing it wrong all this time. Let's go ahead and fix it now.
Yeah.
See, I feel bad because we play a game, and someone's introducing me to a game, and I go, okay, cool. And we play the game that way, and then I get the game because I love it.
Right.
Then I, of course, grab the book, go through it.
You're like,
make
wow,
sure
this game's not nearly as exciting as it was when I played with them because there's all these rules that they're not playing right. Forget it.
And unfortunately, with the way I am, I tend to just start texting everyone and going, by the way, that one thing that was wrong, or that one thing you said was actually wrong, and we were doing that wrong. Let's not do that again.
I've been playing D&D for close to 10 years now, and I still screw the rules up. Okay, go to a Pathfinder Society game. Oh, by the way, it's just a tracker your ammo. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Can I attack this guy?
15 years.
See, I feel bad about it though.
Do I get an attack of opportunity or not?
And before we were talking about the eschew materials thing. Eschew materials is only for like 1 gold piece worth of stuff.
Oh yeah.
If you need a diamond as a sorcerer, you still need a freaking diamond.
No, you don't.
Says Don.
You have eschew materials.
Right.
I found this rock laying in a charcoal grill. 10,000 more years, it'll be a diamond, right? Yeah, you got it, bro. Use it.
Okay.
Time jump.
So, what excites you guys in a game?
Variety.
And the ability, and as odd as it's going to sound, because it's going to sound more like it would be coming from a perceiver, I think it really is the ability to react to a situation quickly.
Yeah.
Because we're processing it quickly, and a lot of times with the emotional aspect of it, we're either so invested that we've already determined our emotion for the situation, like I'm excited about going this way, or I'm scared to death, or I'm extremely angry. So it allows me to react and then go forward with it. And that includes even things like zombicide. Like, oh my god, there's 10 zombies outside that door. I'm going to kill as many of them as I can right now. Right. So.
Yeah, but Avital doesn't like that, so.
I'm bad at making decisions. Or just me, whatever.
Peas.
Or whatever.
That's a pea, yeah.
But there are times when, like, say in the game we were playing with Derek, and our child in the group was like going off somewhere with his girlfriend, like somewhere far away, and everybody else is kind of like, oh, okay, whatever, and I'm like, excuse me, mother of the child, how are you okay with this? I was like, this is practically my nephew. I was like, he is not going alone. I am going with him. And everybody else is like, oh, well, okay, we'll go. And I'm just like, are you kidding? Like, what? I don't. How is this not a thing that you're like, you're not going by yourself? How old are you? 17, 18? Right. No way. Yeah. Like.
And I think that's the answer for the NFPs is it's the story. The story is what really gets them into role playing.
Well, then the NFJ is the ability to just make the decision and go with it. Because I love just, we're doing this, let's do it. I just love it. And sometimes it ends up failing, and it sucks. But other times it ends up being gold.
Yeah.
So
for me, it's story and being involved in the story, and obviously, I have talked several times in the past about how deeply involved with my characters I am. So I'm not going to start talking about it again, but story for me and being involved in it and having it affect me and my characters is what gets me excited about a game.
Go ahead, Deb.
So I want to throw that again because my letters are completely opposite. So I'm just the things that don't make sense to me, I'm throwing out there. So conflict in game. Either player conflict or character conflict. Thumbs up, thumbs down, it depends, because
what are you asking, Deb? What are you asking?
Well, one of the things that's said in here about the Idealists is that it seems like all of them tend to seek harmony in their own personal life and also in their interpersonal relationships. So is conflict in a game something that you guys are like, yeah, it's good? Or is it just like, I would far rather just have the whole party, let's all get along? I mean, is that more important to you? Because to me, I don't mind the conflict in the game. As an ISTJ, I think it's interesting.
I can't stand it.
Why are we, let's throw it down. All right, you got your issues, I got mine. Let's toss this down. Whereas,
especially especially between players. I mean, between players, because that's the actual people.
Right, the human beings.
Conflict? Oh, I cannot stand if there is conflict happening near me, even if no one is mad at me
Has
or
nothing to
yelling
do with
at
you
me
whatsoever.
If these two people over here are like yelling at each other, I'm like, stop doing that.
One of the other names for the INFP is the mediator.
Yes.
Yeah.
We talked about it last week. The fact that I don't like the games where you have an antagonizer in a group, and I think that is quite a good thing for most NFs. But for me, if you have a rogue that steals from the group, as long as it's understood that that's what he's doing, that can work for story. But it's still like everybody at the table is now I have to watch my stuff. When I sleep, I have to tie everything to myself and put bells on everything so that I know that if it happens.
Right.
Yeah, and that's I don't. The interpersonal party conflict, I think, is we're a party adventuring together. I understand that we may have differences of opinion, but we are not here. I don't like it when they're out to screw each other. I can't stand that.
Yeah.
And that's why a session 0 is very important, where you find out what makes everyone tick. You have that sit down and talk. Why are we traveling together instead of, we're all friends that decided to play the same game together?
Right.
Yeah.
I think maybe more so because I am, as the ENFP, the inspirer, the campaigner.
The champion.
Yes. I don't like player conflict, because player conflict makes it difficult for everyone to sit down at a table and play a game.
Okay.
Which is the reason why, on occasion, if I know that this person and that person are not seeing eye to eye on a personal level, I will kind of intercede in saying, hey, this is a thing that I'm doing. I'm inviting both of you. If you're both here, we're here to have a good time. If you don't both show up because the other one is here, I don't particularly enjoy that. But if that's what's going to help you have a good time, is not being here because that person's here, then, I mean, that's fine. I would rather people be civil with one another to have a good time than to force trying to have a good time with people who are not. Now, that being said, as a player / GM and being an inspirer, I love inter-party stuff, which is why when I play a rogue and I do sleight of hand something from somebody's bag, I will roll my dice and I will hand the note to the GM. And then the GM will go, okay, and then maybe 10 minutes later he'll go, hey, Avital, make a perception check. Roll. Okay, I got a 25. Okay, well, you didn't get it, but it's okay. Okay, what happened? Nothing. I mean, you didn't see it, so don't worry about it. To me, I feel like that is what a GM should do when you have people who are trying... Because I'm not taking something from... First of all, as a player, I'm not going to take Avital's wand or her spell book. I might take the cool thing that she found in that chest over there that she's not going to be using because she put it in her bag and she didn't actually put it on her. That makes sense to me. I'm like, well, you're not going to use it. I might.
You're a kender.
I am. Well, no, I do it. No, I am a thief.
No, he purposely takes it.
There's a distinct difference.
There's a big difference. I do it with purpose. I'm like, they're not going to use that staff of fireball right now. I'm sure I have used a magic device. I could use that thing. So I like party conflict when it inspires creativity in everybody else in the game. I do not like party conflict when it's like, hey, you gave me 250 gold and you gave him 300 gold. Like, that kind of stuff, like...
Yes, but I also gave you that ring of one.
Right. Well, that's different,
thing.
though. But I'm just saying, like when you have conflict for just... Like, there is a difference between having cohesion in a party and having conflict in it to elevate the story, because conflict can be necessary to elevate the story.
Sure.
But when you have conflict just to start a fight, that's when it can be a much bigger issue. Go ahead.
Well, and because I'm sure you'd feel differently if the character conflict then turned into player conflict.
Right, because that's what happens.
You know, because for the most part, if the character conflict can be contained within the game, then that leads to, more creativity and more role play, rather than, if you're just traveling along and you don't do anything exciting, then nothing exciting is going to happen until the GM says, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to, put something for you guys to do now because you guys are just
shake this up a little bit.
But I just wanted to make a comment that, being married to an ENFP, and we talked a little bit about, the difficulties in a sensing person versus an intuitive person and like the problems that can arise in communication. But I will say that, I would say specifically with the NFs, they internalize so much that they don't say.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just it's not just that
we're
they're
not even
thinking,
NFs,
because I would say all the N's are constantly thinking.
Yes.
But specifically NFs, it took me a long time to understand that, especially, because he is a feeler. If it's negative, he'll go ahead and internalize it and then just take it all on his shoulders. Like, well, now this is my job to figure out how to fix this conflict or how to do better at my job or how to, whatever argument we had, like, resolve this. And whereas the sensing part of me is like ready to go ahead and like talk about it so we can figure this out. And I mean, I think that's largely because I'm introverted sensing, so I express my sensing externally. Mm-hmm. He's extroverted intuitive, so he internalizes all of that intuition and doesn't express it very well. So I guess in that way, that's kind of what makes sense to me when you say that you've already thought about the 10 horrible things that you could say about yourself before somebody ever...
Yeah. We have fights before we have fights.
Yeah,
right? We know what to say when the fight happens.
And how, in many ways, when you put it that way, it can sound really depressing. And I'm sure that you don't live a depressive life or anything.
And that's absolutely the opposite of what I'm trying to say. Exactly what you said.
Because I believe, when it says that you're the most optimistic personality, I think that's entirely true.
Yeah.
And it's genuine optimism. It's not...
Yeah.
Right. It's not fake.
I had a friend tell me one time, when they first met me, I walked in the room and they were like, yeah, you had a smile on your face, we were talking about this movie and you were really into it and stuff like that, and I thought you were so fake. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, mm-hmm. Really? And they were like, yeah. And then after hanging out with you for a few weeks, you were like, wow, that's really him. And I was like, okay, well, that makes me feel good, but mm-hmm. It's just funny how genuine optimism, and I think this is probably something that us NFs can share. Genuine optimism sometimes is taken for granted, in my opinion. You have people who are always looking for, whether they be pessimists or realists or what have you. I want to see the best come out of people, and I am willing to do everything I can to make that happen.
But you don't expect the same.
That's true. That's absolutely true, because I'm going to do the best I can. It doesn't matter whether somebody sets me up for failure or success. I'm going to do the best I can with whatever situation I have.
Yep. Well, and that's the point that I was trying to make, is then when somebody comes along and gives that feedback, good or bad, he just internalizes it and just adds it into, well, then I'm gonna have to be better next time, or I'm gonna have to. I mean, it kind of broke my heart when I had that realization about him, because being a spouse, I was like, I don't want you to feel like you have to take all of that on all by yourself. Like, that's what I'm here for.
Right.
Is to help you. And so I've been like slowly trying to, in my own very sensing way, like break down his intuitive thinking, like, let me in.
Can you say something? Say something, just so I know what's going on in there.
I do it a lot more when it's between Bonnie and I.
Yeah.
But I'm still I'm still an N. I mean, it's still... Oh, yeah.
So is Josh.
Thank you, Lance. Okay, Deb. Mm-hmm. You have some Kiersey temperament classes that you discussed last episode. So what do you have for the Idealists?
So, and this is for discussion. These are my ideas, so we definitely want to bandy these around.
We know that.
So, my ideas for an ENFP, Don, I think the Paladin
Okay.
Because they would be that the idea of the inspirer, the champion, the we are going to do this for the that sort of idea.
For the glory
of
praise
whatever.
Paylor.
Exactly. Yes.
I would take issue with that only because they are limited by the laws.
Yeah.
And then you have a point. That's a good
point. You beat me to
point.
the punch. I was on my way to that.
Which is, I would put cleric there because of everything you just said.
Okay, so maybe, because what I had, and you know what, I think you guys are right, because what I had was for the ENFJ as the cleric.
I would totally flip
paladin.
those.
Okay.
I would totally flip those.
So the J component being the paladin.
100%.
So, and then the P component making it more of a cleric.
Because they're both healing types. They're both fighter types.
Right.
One is more
take care
fighter.
of people.
One is more healer.
Right.
But they both have a very. I think that's why Josh and I hit it off really well with people, is because we're both concerned about the group.
Right.
In totally different ways.
Yep.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think an INFP, Avital, would be a druid. That introspective, being in touch with themselves, being in touch with nature, animals, that kind of peaceful, hanging out in a corner by my tree, but don't mess with my world. You get over here and you start messing with my world, and I will, I can imagine them going crazy. But usually, you mind your business, I'm good. I don't know.
I could definitely see that. Mm-hmm. I don't personally play that because
it's hard to play a druid well in
role play. I just like
druid can get a little complicated
to be able to just be effective.
Yeah.
So
see, I was going to say
some
bard,
kind of fighter type, but
I think an ESFP is a bard.
Well, I
think Alan's
understand
personality would
the
be
E
a
side
bard.
of it, but I think that with the whole being a writer, especially the creative aspect of that, I could see a bard being very useful there.
yeah.
But it would be difficult because a bard has to have some bit of extroversion because they are, in the middle of a fight, they're up and talking.
Right.
Not true. Not true.
Okay.
Because I don't mean to take such an aggressive response, but
Sounds like me. Sounds like I would be like, that is not true.
No,
Excuse me.
The reason I say that, as someone who has been a performer, as an I, you can still be a very effective performer.
Oh, yeah.
All you have to do is channel the fact that you're singing to one person, or you pick your target. That's how an I becomes an effective performer. Mm-hmm. The reason that there are so many good I's in movies is because it's a closed set.
Right.
You know who's going to be there: the director, the producer, the cameraman, all those guys.
And you may only be
It's a
acting
closed
against
set.
one or two people in
Right.
the scene.
You're acting to what? You're acting to the person that's in the scene with you. You're not acting to the
No
people
studio
out there.
audience.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. So I would agree that a bard would be good for an INFP because they can pick their target, and it still lends them with the creative measure of what a bard gives. And if you're also thinking as an introvert, that doesn't mean you close yourself off to only one or two people. You're talking about their intimate adventuring group.
Mm-hmm.
True.
They are going to do everything they can to make sure that their group is effective.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and you're
They're
druid.
going to inspire courage. They're going to inspire competence.
Uh-huh.
They're going to heal them when they need to. But they also want to tell their story.
Yeah, definitely. The bard, I can totally see that because, as in, you're with your group, and
These
for
are
me,
your captive audience.
It's the mother bear. These are mine.
I want to help the people around me to do the best that they can in whatever they are doing. So in the bard, that is what the bard does.
Right.
I would say that my famous bard was probably an INFP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the part that everybody knows that I played.
Right.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what she would.
I
probably
also
have been.
think that in the mix of the idealists, having, which I totally agree with Paladin Cleric for ENFJ, ENFP, having a Paladin Cleric, a bard is going to be like, I got nothing to worry about.
Well, that's probably
you see what
true.
I'm saying?
Right.
So in that idealistic temperament, a bard fits because they have spells that
Right.
they can rely on in case
Yeah.
they have
something goes wrong.
Yeah,
or
they can
need
use
to.
weapons. They can
Right.
wear light armor.
The bard is
they are
the
in
epitome
case.
of the
they
perceiver.
are just in case.
The
Yeah.
bard is the epitome of the perceiver.
Oh, I absolutely agree about the P portion of it. I have a bard, but I have a different one. I have the ESFP
Right.
as the bard.
The performer for a bard makes sense, but it's a totally different temperament.
Yeah.
Different, right.
It's
so
a different.
you go a different way with
It's a different